Hi, and welcome to the weekly market update from Morton Brown Family Wealth for the week of August 17th, 2020. Here with Katie Brown and Cody Dental. How are you guys doing?
Very
Good.
well.
Good. Working remotely today. We're going to talk a little bit at the end of the conversation about what's happening with office space and where people are working and why they're making economic decisions about where they work. We're going to start with an update on where the markets are and where leadership is really happening here in August. Cody, why don't you kick us off on the discussion of cyclical stocks?
So cyclical stocks were lagging behind. They were some of the hardest hit companies in February and March, and they were lagging behind on the rebound. But since August, they've actually outperformed the S&P 500 as a whole and the NASDAQ. Dow Jones is up around 10%. Russell 2000, which is the small cap index, is up almost 7%. I mean, the S&P is still up 3% from August, but it's nice to see that the rally is broadening throughout all the sectors.
What are some examples of cyclical stocks as opposed to some of the high-flying growth stocks we've heard so much about this year?
So like the airlines, energy companies, banks, and then just some of the transportation companies.
Yeah, so it's ones that are really, really sensitive to the economic cycle. So there would be indicators of a stronger, broader-based rebound. Start seeing those names coming back.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why the transports are a big leading indicator. When those start to pick up, everything else tends to follow usually. Katie, what did you see about kind of the most recent moves in the market?
One thing that jumped out to me, AMC theaters, AMC entertainment. I thought it was interesting that's up 37% this month and jumped up 14%, I think, last Thursday alone, just on the news of they're opening up 100 theaters nationwide. So there's obviously a lot of excitement for people to kind of get back to some normalized entertainment, but just interesting to see the vast spike there.
I was listening to a great podcast earlier this week, and the interview topic was how we entertain ourselves, and just talking about how movies and music are still being very marginalized on the way that they entertain us, and they're being replaced by streaming and gaming. It's the way that we entertain. It's just that model's been disrupted. Who knows how it comes back? But gaming and streaming are definitely racing forward on how they entertain. But we'll see how the demand comes back when AMC opens up.
Yeah, and you know what? I know that we've talked about this before too, but companies, you're right. This is a time for disruption. They're going to be looking at and saying, this was the old model that maybe doesn't work anymore in this environment, or that there are opportunities in a new environment going forward. And we're seeing mass changes, I think, in some of the offerings. I think we're going to see more mass changes in services that companies are providing and the way that they deliver those services or products and goods. And so I think it'll be, even though a lot of companies have struggled through quite a bit of this year, it'll be fascinating to see how they come out on the other side.
Yeah.
It'll have small scale, but also on big scale. Remember that story we saw earlier, I think it was last week, about Amazon partnering with Simon Property Group. So, JCPenney and Sears closing down anchor properties in malls around the country. Well, Amazon is saying we could really use that space for fulfillment centers. I mean, we have to get our goods out ready for delivery via Prime. And what better place than these boxes attached to traditional retail? So it's going to happen at the micro level, but then also with huge places. And it repurposes real estate that we might have thought, wow, that's never coming back. Well, now there's a use for it.
Yeah. And we see that in malls too when it comes to residential real estate too. Some old malls being converted to, rental real estate properties.
Yeah. Things Debbie Gibson never thought about in the 80s when she was saying that.
Debbie Gibson or Tiffany?
I think, but so on the topic of real estate, Cody, you found an article on how people are, what were the uses of real estate, how it's being repurposed a little bit. Tell us what you found.
Yeah, so Amazon actually just bought a building on Fifth Avenue in New York City from WeWork, actually. It was the old Lord & Taylor store. They bought it for around $1 billion, for actually a little more than $1 billion. But they're adding 2,000 employees in New York City, and then an additional 1,500 employees throughout the country in places like Denver, Detroit, Arizona. So it's good to see some companies obviously still trying to go back into the office.
So, Katie, do you think this is, remote work fatigue, or why do you think Amazon is making this bet on office space?
I think there's still in some of those locations, the cost of living is a bit lower, so you can get kind of more of a quality of life. Obviously, in New York, that's not necessarily the case, but there's still an excitement to being in New York. And I think remote work is that's a great option. But some of these companies have incredible office spaces, incredible benefits within the office. So, whether it's providing meals and having gyms in house and having, just places where they can like kick back and they can get together with other coworkers, even, even if there's a little more distance right now, I think they really do create their own communities. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're betting on some people still opting for that. But to open it up in Phoenix and Denver and other places rather than just, Silicon Valley or just New York City, I think provides a lot of great option.
Just get the sense that there's this quality of life conversation that's happening across the spectrum. People are saying, you know what, my quality of life is either better or worse when I'm working from home. My quality of life is either better or worse when I'm in the office environment. So somebody might have their lifestyle might be embodied in the place where they work, where it's just the place they can do all of their things. Or that might be the case at home. And this kind of opens up the conversation of maybe I can pick or choose which one of these works best. So another article that we found was about kind of on the flip side, this is Amazon making it better where people are going, but where are people leaving? And there was a story in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about this immigration from the San Francisco Bay Area, where they talked about just what's happened to some of the home prices, where, the median cost of a single family home in San Francisco tripled to almost $1 million from 2009 to 2019. And suddenly, I think what was the other stat that they had, some of the rental prices had dropped 11% this July from where they were a year ago. And anecdotally, they're pointing out Facebook and Google have told their employees, we're not coming back on site summer of 2021. And then what happens? People start saying, well, I'm moving to Phoenix, I'm moving to Durham, North Carolina, or I'm moving to Denver, a place where I can have a higher quality of life and still work remotely. So I think this is, who knows if this is a trend that sustains, but these are the economic decisions that families make, right, Katie?
Yes. And if you heard that little squeal in the background, that is my daughter in the corner. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I have visitors today.
Good. That's good. These are family economic decisions. Like if I'm going to earn this many dollars, where am I going to spend my time? Is it 3 hours commuting every day? Is it paying exorbitant prices for a shoebox townhome, in the San Francisco Bay Area? I think this comes back to how your time is spent, quality of life, and not just investing, but, what are all these dollars going to support?
Yeah, I did see in that article when you were talking about the rent, it was the first time in 5 years that the rent actually went down in the Bay Area. So it'll be interesting, like you said, to see if that's a trend or if this is just a one-time thing. There was a couple surveys in that article that were interesting too, by recruitment workplaces. They were interviewing people who were looking for jobs in the Bay Area, and 42% of them said that they would rather remote work and live somewhere a lot less expensive. So I thought that was interesting.
And this is, Katie, this is kind of our story with how we settled in the Lehigh Valley independently. And you look around and say, we work in finance, and finance is historically a big city enterprise, but we can do this independent advice job from anywhere. We choose to do it in a place where the quality of life is high. The cost of living is really manageable. It's a beautiful area close to the outdoors and cities. So I think a lot of industries are saying, a place like the Lehigh Valley or a place like the Research Triangle in North Carolina, you can kind of have that balance. If we can do it from anywhere, why not do it from here?
Yeah, we've really enjoyed this area, and I think that we have been intentional about trying to build out the quality of life, even just in the way that we think about building the firm and giving those options to everyone that works at the firm. So I think that has been top of mind, and we're fortunate to live in an area where it can be.
All right, that's all we have for today, but we want to remind you that we have a live market update on August 27th. So if there's a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email. We'd be happy to touch on it. And also, just a content recommendation, there's a podcast out there now called Foundering, which is a discussion of the story of WeWork, which was a company creating collaborative workspaces in a lot of major cities, was built up to a multi-billion-dollar valuation, and then fell apart. So it kind of ties in the real estate, speculative bubbles, and really business culture. So a very interesting listen if you get the chance. It's called Foundering. All right, great to see you guys, and look forward to catching up with you again next week.